Hello, welcome to another episode of the Bible in 1 year with the preacher's husband. Today, we're talking about Deuteronomy chapters 14, 15, and 16. Now, tomorrow, we're going to go through chapters 17 through 20 in Deuteronomy. So, 4 chapters for tomorrow. But today, we're in 14, 15, and 16. And we start out with forbidden practices. And right off the bat, it kind of caught me off guard here. It says, chapter 14, verse 1, "You are sons of the Lord your God. Do not cut yourselves or make a bald spot on your head." I might be in trouble here. On behalf of the dead. Oh, okay. I got it. So it didn't say, don't be a bald-headed dude. It said, don't make bald spots. So basically, pulling your hair out. "For you are a holy people belonging to the Lord your God." Now, there was a purpose for this. The Canaanites, where they were going, they, and the heathenistic mongrels that they were, they would lament their dead, and basically they would do things like pull out their hair, and they would lacerate themselves or cut themselves all over their bodies. And they do this perhaps to maybe gain some sympathy from the gods, and thus have a renewed sense of peace and equilibrium. We'd learn a lot about this in 1 Kings chapter 18, Jeremiah chapter 47, and Hosea chapter 7, if you want to dig a little deeper on that subject. Israel, however, this was basically God telling them not to imitate these pagan practices that they do. Then we go on to talk about unclean foods, and I'm just sitting here thinking, goodness, the only things in the sea we can have are fish. We can't have any crab, no lobster, no shrimps, no shellfish. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do without my seafood? But we learned earlier that a lot of these things had to do with health, and it didn't necessarily have to do with you were going to die if you ate a shrimp. That's not really what it was. But these were the clean foods that were good for you that God has said, these are the ones that you're good to eat. I found it interesting that ostrich was in there as one you shouldn't eat. Because I went to an ostrich farm one time and had an ostrich burger, and it was really good. But I didn't get sick. Didn't get sick from it or anything. But I guess I'm breaking those old Jewish rules. All those laws, like we talk about. A tenth for the Lord, 10%. Remember to give that tithe that we talked about at the end of 14 here. Now, the beginning of chapter 15, we are talking about debts. And debts being canceled. At the end of every 7 years, you must cancel debts, according to the Bible, Deuteronomy 15. Now, this principle is based on the Sabbath, and the Sabbath was that all creation should rest and be rejuvenated on the seventh day. Well, this was extended to the 7th year as well regarding debts. Now, canceling debts on the sabbatical year meant one of the following two things. Number one, the borrower who was unable to pay his debt could walk away free of obligation following the 7th year. Or two, repayment could not be demanded on the 7th year by the person that had loaned the money. So they couldn't give it, they couldn't demand that you pay. You had to forgive that. Now it says here that you may collect something from a foreigner, but you must forgive whatever your brother owes you. So if somebody wasn't from around here come passing through and borrow money from you and then left, then that would be something you could get money back from them if you could find them, I reckon. So we move on to lending to the poor. Now this is historic right here, honestly. Chapter 15, verse 11, it says it right here. And God basically says, "For there will never cease to be poor people in the land." There will never cease to be poor people. "That is why I am commanding you, open your hand willingly to your poor and needy brother in your land." See, even God knew that there were always going to be poor. But on the bright side, what that does mean is there will always be an opportunity for you to minister. There will always be an opportunity for you to do good things, to do good works on God's behalf, being the hands and feet of Jesus, so to speak. Release of slaves was the next thing. No, actually, a little bit deeper on this. The fact that they were always going to be poor, the debts being canceled, these two things go hand in hand, because what happened was creditors, when it came like year 5 and 6 started creeping up on them, creditors began to get really stingy and not want to loan money to people. And that's really what what they're talking about here, is that the creditors get stingy because they don't want to lend money to somebody in year 6 and give them a whole bunch of money, and then next year just have to forgive it, because there's no way they're going to be able to pay off a large sum of money in a short period of time. So God basically is saying here that that too is a sin for that creditor to do that. You can't be that way. He says you have to be giving, and you have to give to the poor anyway. Even if there's a good chance that you're not going to get paid back. So give without expectation of being paid back and rewarded. If you're paid back, great. If not, that's even good. Releasing the slaves. If a slave served you for 6 years, you must set him free in the 7th year. When you set him free, don't send him away empty-handed. Now, slavery itself was a bit different than the slavery that we are used to hearing about in the United States. So just so you know, there are some differences. And we talked about those in previous chapters as well. And then it talks about consecration of firstborn animals. Chapter 16 gets into the festival of Passover. And one thing stuck out here in this, other than the festival of weeks, appointing judges and officials, and forbidden appointment of judges and officials. The one thing that stood out to me here was verse 5 in chapter 16 says, "You are not to sacrifice the Passover animal in any of the towns the Lord your God is giving you. Sacrifice the Passover animal only at the place where the Lord your God chooses to have his name dwell." And we talked about this previously as well. The place where the Lord chooses to have his name dwell was that central sanctuary. Now, we remember in chapter 12 when we talked about this central sanctuary, it moved over time, wherever God chose. And me and Pastor got into a conversation about that today, is, well, where do they go to do this sacrifice now? Well, it depends on where God chose to put his name. It could be in that central tabernacle in Jerusalem. When it started, it was in Gilgal, and then it went to Shechem, and then of course for many years in Shiloh, 300 years to be exact, and then finally into Jerusalem. But what about the people who are Jewish in America? Where do their sacrifices happen? Well, wherever God calls them to do their sacrifices, where those sacrifices happen. It doesn't have to necessarily be only in Jerusalem. So at least that's my interpretation of it here. And that's what we get. Now, I wanted to give you guys a quick little history. I want to save a little bit of time. And what I've done here is I looked back at chapter 15, and I noticed in chapter 15, verse 6, it says, "For the Lord your God will bless you just as he promised you." Now, I am reminded not just of being blessed as if you're giving to someone, but our country being blessed as well. And when I think of our country being blessed, the first thing I think of is a song, "God Bless America." Now, born in a poor Russian Jewish ghetto, Irving Berlin, which is pictured here, he immigrated to America with his parents when he was 5 years old, and he settled in New York's Lower East Side. He became one of the most prolific American songwriters in history, and "God Bless America" is an American patriotic song that he originally wrote in 1918, and he revised it again in 1938 as war and the Nazis were threatening Europe. Now, it takes the form of a prayer for God's blessing and peace for the nation. The singer, Kate Smith, introduced the revised "God Bless America" during her radio broadcast on Armistice Day in 1938. And the song was an immediate sensation. Everybody loved it. And even today, it's considered one of those unofficial national anthems of the United States. We have our national anthem, but God Bless America is one of those unofficial national anthems as we see it. And I'm going to read to you this that Irving Berlin wrote. It is God Bless America, the first verse. While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for our land so fair as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the ocean white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. By Irving Berlin. And I get to thinking, we've just read about the Israelites who are coming into a new land as well. And they are coming into a newfound type of freedom. They used to be slaves, but now here they are free, and they are getting God's blessing in this new land just like we have been blessed here in the United States of America. And God bless you. I hope this has touched you. If it has, please click the like button, the subscribe button, and of course, click the little jingle bell so you can be notified the next time I upload a video, which will be tomorrow. I'll see you then.